Welcome to Life Recovery Today with Stephen Arterburn. In the next half hour, you'll obtain insights and tools to transform your life using the biblical principles found in the 12-step program. We believe everyone can benefit from a life recovery experience because we all have struggles in life. Struggles with addictions, food, depression, anxiety, and relationships, to name a few. You'll be encouraged to see how others have found a new way of life with hope for the future through life recovery. Your host is Steve Arterburn, founder of New Life Ministries and Women of Faith, author of over 100 books, and teaching pastor at Northview Church in Carmel, Indiana, one of the 20 largest churches in America. Steve is the co-editor of the Life Recovery Bible, the #1 selling recovery Bible. With over 3 million copies sold, this is the Bible given to inmates by Prison Fellowship and the Pew Bible for the Salvation Army. Now here's Steve.
Hi, Steve Arterburn here. Thanks for joining me, Life Recovery Today. I hope it's a great day for you. I've got a great guest today who works with every man's battle and is a specialist in the area of sexual addiction, sexual dependency, and all things having to do with lust and unfaithfulness and how do we pull it all back together. I think you'll enjoy that interview. Now, I want to tell you a story. There was a flight attendant, and that flight attendant walked up to a man who was seated in one of the seats on the airplane. And she asked him a really simple question. Sir, would you like something to drink? And he said, yes, I would. What are my choices? And she said, yes or no. Pretty simple. So, that's the way I view everything that has to do with recovery. It's not a lot of different options that seem to work for people. It seems that there is one particular thing that works for everybody, and everybody eventually finds that one particular thing, or they're just kind of messing around. And then they find that one particular thing. You either do it or you don't. And that one particular thing is the 12th law of life recovery. There's a little 12 laws book. And the last one is the law of surrender. That the law of surrender is going to result in victory for us. And you're just messing around until you do it. The Bible tells us in James 4:1 that whenever we humble ourselves before God, which is what surrender is. It's saying, I do not have it in and of myself to get better. If we will humble ourselves, put ourselves down before the Lord, He will lift us up. Now, that's a verse. That's a promise. It's saying the God of the universe, the observable universe that is 93 billion, I think, light years wide, what we can see. And each light year is a lot of trillions of miles that light goes in a year. That big God has said that He would reach down and lift you and me, little us, up if we would surrender to Him. I think that's absolutely amazing that that would happen. So I'm hoping here on December the 31st, this would be a great day to get that whole surrender thing worked out. Because really, it's just yes or no. And I'm hoping that you're going to say yes and that this next year is going to be the absolute best year ever. We'll take a break and we'll come back with my interview with Bob Sklar. I think you're going to like it.
Are you going through your struggles alone? Do you want someone to talk to help you through your pain? Do you feel like a failure when you relapse again, telling yourself, next time will be different? Don't walk this path alone anymore. Join a life recovery group today and be a person that your friends and family can be proud of. God created us to be in community, and we believe everyone can benefit from a life recovery experience. There are life recovery groups all over the country, and if there isn't one in your area, we can help you start one. Life Recovery brings recovery to you, right where you are. You'll take a journey with others to find healing and freedom. Whether you're looking to join a group or start one, New Life Ministries is here for you. Call us at 1-800-NEW-LIFE or visit liferecoverytoday.net.
Welcome back to Life Recovery Today. I just want to mention something to you, that Prison Fellowship embarked upon a program to give prisoners a Life Recovery Bible anytime that they asked for one. They had been sitting on a lot of money for Bibles, and they weren't giving those Bibles away. They weren't using the money. They asked the chaplains what would be the Bible of choice that we would give away as Prison Fellowship to these prisoners, and all the chaplains said, the prisoners want a Life Recovery Bible. The first year of the program was the year before last, and they gave away 19,000 Bibles to prisoners. This past year, they just told me, they gave away 89,000 Life Recovery Bibles to prisoners, and the number just keeps on growing. Very, very excited about that, and if you need a copy of the Life Recovery Bible, you can call 1-800-NEW-LIFE. It is really an amazing study Bible, whether you've ever entered into the recovery world or not. Well, let me talk to you about Bob Sklar. Bob, welcome. Thanks for being here with me. Really appreciate it. Bob has been part of New Life before there was a New Life, I think. He is a wonderful therapist. He is especially good in working with our guys through every man's battle. And that's not because he went to Sunday school, learned all the lessons, carried them out, and lived the perfect life. He has been where a lot of us have been and where a lot of people still are. Bob, talk to us a little bit about what life was like before you ever knew there was a recovery to be had for your life.
Well, you know, Steve, before I got into recovery, I lived two lives. I lived a life that looked really good on the outside. I was a good Christian man. I was married. I had 2 sons. And I led worship at church. But I had a secret life that was going on, and which caused me not to be present in my marriage. It affected the way that I parented my kids. And I was just self-centered and disconnected. And in my marriage, I really didn't know the first thing about being truly connected and intimate.
And so what happened that kind of woke you up? I mean, the 12th step, we've focused on that a little bit this month, that, you know, we have had a spiritual awakening, and now we want to carry this message to others. And you certainly had a spiritual awakening, and you are carrying this message to many, many others. But how did that happen for you? What was that all about?
Well, you know, I told you about the outside life, but you know, there was an inner life that I live, a secret life that was just filled with shame and lies. And it was so bad that, you know, I felt hopeless. I felt like God didn't even hear my prayers anymore, that, you know, that He didn't care, and I was completely worthless. And my addiction, like most addictions do, was gradually escalating. And finally, there was an experience where I stepped over a line that I felt so horrible about that I confessed to my wife. And you know, we'd had counseling before and some other things like that. And this time she said she'd had enough and that I needed to get help or our marriage was over. And, you know, I felt terrible for how I'd hurt her, how I'd carved her insides out, how, you know, I had just smashed her hopes and dreams. And I was just so ashamed. I was afraid to ask for help. And I had a friend that encouraged me to get involved in 12-step. And you know, I was so ashamed about being a sex addict that I actually went to AA and identified as an alcoholic for the 3 months of my first 3 months of my recovery.
I doubt you're the only person that's ever done that.
You know, and you know what was great is I found a community that supported me without shame there. And eventually, you know, I started going to SA, which is Sexaholics Anonymous, and I worked that program for about, well, I've been in recovery now for 30 years.
Unbelievable. Awesome.
And I worked that program for about 19 and a half years until I went to my first EMB weekend, which completely transformed my recovery and my life.
Okay, so when you say EMB, for those that aren't familiar with New Life and what we do. That stands for Every Man's Battle. Now there's the book, Every Man's Battle, that anybody can read. It's got a workbook, you can go through it. But we put together a workshop, and Jason Martinkus actually does this workshop. He's the person that presents the material. But then after you hear a talk about Every Man's Battle, then you go into a group with guys just like Bob here. And I just want to say this, the commitment from the beginning was not just to do something that paralleled or parroted the book. You can read the book, you can do the workbook. But everything essentially in Every Man Battle intensive over a weekend is very different than the book. So you went to Every Man's Battle. Tell us what happened.
Well, first of all, I met some men there who really lived their recovery. But then the other thing that I really learned, and I think that Every Man's Battle has and offers, is a focus on intimacy and relationship. When I first got into recovery, I really thought this was all about sex or too much sex. But I came to realize that this wasn't really a sex problem. It was an intimacy and connection problem. And at Every Man's Battle, I met men who lived a life of integrity, that hanging around them challenged me to live a life of integrity, that they lived out everything that they had asked the guys that came to attend. They lived that as a part of their life. And that was challenging. But entering into a community of men that I started to learn how to do intimacy transformed my life and really began a restoration and redemptive process with my wife and my family.
So, Bob, somebody that's listening and hearing this might have been where you were, and they're thinking this: if I just try a little bit harder on my own, no one has to know about this, I'll take care of it, this will be the beginning of my recovery today, it'll be between me and God, no one has to know. What would you say to that person? Because there are many who think that, or staying on that path.
Well, I think I would start off by saying, me too. And that was my biggest challenge of getting into recovery. I thought either I was betraying God, I was afraid of being exposed. I had tried to do it on my own. I tried creating my own recovery group, with my friends. But you know what? I didn't have anybody that was a step ahead of me to really lead me there. And it really, the very first part of recovery is learning to acknowledge that I've got a problem out loud to another person, and then learning how to ask for help. And that really is the thing that transforms you. And that's what I found.
I believe Bill W. loved the work, the book, The Varieties of Religious Experience by William James. And in there, William James says all spiritual experiences or spiritual awakenings begin with the word help. And I think that all of us who try to avoid that word, we're just putting off what eventually, inevitably, we're going to need to do. Sadly, people wait too long and the consequences get too great. Well, we're going to take a break. We'll come back for what you're doing now, how you're helping people having had that spiritual awakening and finding the support from other men who had integrity, men that inspired you. Now you're inspiring them. We'll take this break and we'll be right back with more of Life Recovery Today.
It's hard to find a trusted friend when you're in crisis. Someone who's been there and understands, but who also has the training and skill to give you practical help. Family, friends, and churches want to help, but often they're not equipped to care for those dealing with problems like addiction and pornography, infidelity, anger, depression. New Life Ministries is here to provide help and hope in life's hardest places. We're not focused on making people feel better. We're focused on helping people do the work that will help them be better. At New Life, we have resources available to help you, like books, DVDs, CDs, workshops, and our network of licensed counselors. If you need help, call 1-800-NEW-LIFE and begin your new life today.
Welcome back to Life Recovery Today. I just want to mention to you that Bob's been talking about Every Man's Battle, the workshop, the intensive. You can find out all about that at newlife.com or 1-800-NEW-LIFE. I also want to mention that out of all of this came a Bible called Every Man's Bible. It is the #1 best-selling men's study Bible, and the publisher just told me that since this COVID thing, the sales of this Bible are up 75% over last year. That's about $500,000 more Bibles sold to men. I think that's one of the benefits of COVID, and really excited about that. And we have those Bibles for you also if you need one. Well, Bob has told us about waking up, the shame, not wanting to admit that he had a sexual addiction problem and feeling like, he had really destroyed his relationship with everybody, including God. And so he gets involved with recovery, goes to Every Man's Battle. And Bob, were you a therapist at this time, or did that come later?
No, I was a therapist at the time that I attended. I had been in recovery about 19 and a half years. But, there was a real shift in focus there at Every Man's Battle. I think it was really the first time I'd heard about acting in addiction cycle. Was the first time really the focus on intimacy and connection being the pathway through recovery.
Okay, so why don't you explain what acting in is to folks that aren't familiar with that? Because to me, that was a revolutionary concept also, because I'm one of the guys that isn't smart enough to act in. I act out, and then you can see it, but there are people that act in. Talk about that.
Yeah, the acting in cycle is very much like there's an acting out cycle, but it's mainly around our fear of intimacy and what some people call intimacy anorexia. And the idea is that there are triggers, things that come up in our lives that are relational things that would require me either choosing to be connected or not, to be tuned in or tuned out, to choose to hide or to choose to be connected. And so the idea is that when I'm pressed or I'm in a conflict or just life happens, I choose to be connected, I choose to be engaged rather than hiding, numbing out, and choosing not to be connected.
And a great illustration of acting out, acting in, of course, is the prodigal son story, where the young kid acts out rebellion, takes his inheritance, lives wild and crazy, loses it all, and as a Jewish boy ends up eating pig food with a bunch of pigs and swine. And he comes back and he's repentant. But over on the side is his elder brother. He's never acted out, but certainly has spent his life acting in. And in this story, he's sitting there acting in, angry, bitter, resentful that his brother has come back and has been welcomed back. He's been doing all the right stuff. But I would say this, with that kind of attitude, he's been doing the right stuff with the wrong motive. So a lot of people look good, but they're acting in. Well, Bob, when you're working with guys in Every Man's Battle, what do you think is the most important thing for them if they're going to extend this? Some people are really motivated because they feel guilty or shameful. Others are really motivated in the beginning because they've got a second chance. But what's really important for them to sustain that motivation? Because that initial motivation, it dies pretty quickly.
Sure. Yeah, and I think that for a lot of people, when maybe they achieve sobriety, they feel like the journey's over. But actually, Steve, it's really just beginning, because recovery and being a part of recovery community is really the place to start growing emotionally, growing in connection and intimacy. But I think really the place to do that is choosing to become involved in a community of other men who've been where you've been, speak the language that you speak, and have the experiences that you've had. And then I think that place is also a place to experiment and grow with learning how to be connected, so that I learn how to do this with other men, and then I'm able to do that better with my spouse. And so I think that's one of the really important things. The other thing, I think that you've got men who are a few steps ahead of you to encourage you and tell you what's coming next. And then we've got, maybe the new guys who are still struggling, who are a good reminder of the guys that are, been in a while, of what happens when you let go of your boundaries, of when you take it easy and you're not staying in the middle lane with your recovery.
Mm. When I first went to Every Man's Battle, one of the things I was amazed at, guys would stand up and talk about what they had done and what they had experienced and the freedom that they had. And then it was pretty dark off the stage, and you would hear what sounded like the flapping of a flock of geese wings. And what it was men hugging this guy and hearing the patting on the back, repetitive patting on the back. And it was such a beautiful sound of grace, acceptance, and love from another man. What is that experience like for you? It really was moving to me.
Steve, it really is. In fact, it's one of the deepest honors that I have working those weekends, because a lot of the guys come with stories and experiences that they've never told another human being about, and they've decided they're going to take it to the grave. And yet, in that safe environment of those other men, they're able to speak that out for the first time, have it witnessed, and have someone empathize and encourage them and maybe say, "Me too." And so it's a wonderful place of healing and support.
Really is.
Yes.
Well, what do you say to a guy that knows he needs it, been resisting? What do you say to that guy?
Well, I tell him, don't let your fear or your shame hold you back, because this one step could really be the key to unlocking freedom for your future. I mean, the benefits of being reconciled with your family, with your wife, with your God, to have freedom in thought, there's nothing like it, to be free. And, I talked about having the two lives, to be able to reconcile that secret life and your outside life, where you live as one man and a man of integrity.
Well, Bob, you're sure doing that. And when the Bible says that God comforts us so that we in turn can turn around and comfort other folks and give them the kind of insight and wisdom that we've developed, well, you're a wonderful example of that. I am so proud to be part of what you do, so proud that you're part of what we do. And I thank you so much for being here. Keep up the great, wonderful work. And I pray that God's going to bless you in this new year. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
All right, well, I'm going to take a break and I'll come back, and I want to talk to you a little bit about this next year coming up and getting that mindset in the right direction from the right perspective. Don't forget, you can call us anytime for help, 1-800-NEW-LIFE. You can find out about Every Man's Battle.
Life recovery isn't just about making the courageous choice to give up an addiction or dependency. It's a journey towards health, wholeness, and becoming your very best you. If you need resources to help you in your journey, we can help. There are many life recovery resources that you can do on your own, with a group, or with your church. We have Bibles, workbooks, and devotionals that you can use to work your recovery right where you are. That's the beauty of life recovery. To learn more or to get the Life Recovery Bible or any other life recovery resource, visit liferecoverytoday.net or call us at 1-800-NEW-LIFE. 1-800-NEW-LIFE.
I was so happy to have Bob. I mean, he's just a great man, and he's evidence that when we finally humble ourselves, when we surrender, a lot of things can happen that we never dreamed. And now he is helping hundreds and hundreds of men get their act back together. Well, we've talked about sexual addiction here, and over this past year, we've talked about a lot of different areas of struggle. You may be like me when I was really struggling with the weight issue. And I would need to lose about 10 pounds. And I'd try. I'd miss it by about 15. But anyway, I would keep trying. It was no fun. And you might want to keep trying like you've been trying before. A lot of times we think, if I just stay the same, then finally I'm going to understand and get it right. But here's what I've found. When we don't make a decision to get better, we don't get better, and we don't stay the same, we gradually get worse. It's kind of like going down an escalator. It's slow, it's smooth, but it's down. There's another choice that folks make, and that is we're going to ride this out till we have no other choice. So they're going to hit bottom. And on the way, they'll lose family, friends, they'll lose their faith, they'll lose everything. And some of them literally will lose everything and be out on the street. And then they'll finally, now that they have proven that in and of themselves they don't have the power to turn this thing around, they will finally surrender. Well, there's a third way, and it's the way that I'm hoping for you. And that is that right now you decide, I can't do this on my own. God has the power to do it and wants to help me, and then you decide to let Him. Now, what does that mean when you're going to let God do it? It just means you're going to cooperate with Him. How do you cooperate with God? You call somebody for help. I don't know of anybody that just magically, wonderfully changes, gets better, never connects with anybody, and life is different forever. We need people, and men become men in the company of men. So make a bold move and decide you're going to do something different on this day so that this next year is different every day. Steve Arterburn here. If you want information about our Every Man's Battle workshop, you call us at 1-800-NEW-LIFE. Just remember, every day can be a day of recovery. See you next time.
Thanks for joining us for Life Recovery Today with Stephen Arterburn. We hope this program has helped you integrate God's truth and wisdom into your recovery journey. This program is brought to you by New Life Ministries, and it's your support that keeps this program on the air. When you contact us for any reason, be sure to let us know that you watch on NRB. Call us at 1-800-NEW-LIFE or go to liferecoverytoday.net. Please join us again next week for more Life Recovery Today.